بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله الأمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new episode of Ask Huda, being broadcasted live from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. In Jeddah, where I live, it is time for school holidays, and to some it is a great deal of excitement. To others it is means of frustration and depression. And this is depending on where people come from. Those who are happy usually don't have an objective in life. So they see that these 2 or 3 months off, it's a way out of everything that they used to do at school, which means that their day turns into night and their nights turn into days. They spend their time doing things that the least we could say they would not be rewarded for, and in a lot of cases they would be sinful for doing them. You see a lot of the youth, especially boys and girls, doing things that are sinful, and when you talk to them and give them an advice, they say, Sheikh, we're just killing time. And what crime did time do to deserve to be killed for? People, unfortunately, when they don't have knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah, when they do not know the purpose, the reason of their creation, when they don't have an objective, they are lost. It is exactly like if someone wakes up 6 o'clock in the morning, takes a shower, puts his best suit or clothes, gets into his car and starts the car and drive. Where? He doesn't know. He doesn't have a target or an objective. This person would reach nowhere very soon. Muslims are unlike this. You have a purpose. Allah Azza wa Jal created you for a purpose, and you should know this and work for it, because your days are limited on this earth. Abu Sufyan from India.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
MashaAllah, saying Assim, your programs we like too much, and we all family we watch it.
Jazakallah khair. Wa jazak ya akhi, jazakallah khair.
I have 3 questions.
Okay.
My first question is regarding the Ahl Jamaat. You know, as you told me before, that they are good people, they are nice people, we should exchange gifts with them. But you know, sometimes they are they are not directly, but indirectly they are forcing us to come for dawah, and you have to give dawah, it is compulsory, you have to go 4 months, you have to go every 3 weeks, every month, like this, you know. So like emotional blackmail.
Okay.
So how do they telling it is a compulsory, because Prophet ﷺ also did this dawah everywhere, so it's compulsory for every Muslim. So how should we answer them, Yani?
You're referring to Tabligh Jama'ah.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
Okay. Your second question.
So my second question is regarding the zakat. Can we give zakat in this Syrian crisis, or we should still give zakat to our relatives?
Okay.
But the problem, you know, our relatives still they can manage now, like somehow. But the Syrian crisis is a more deep thing. So should I can give zakat to the Syrian crisis?
Okay. Number 3.
And my third question is regarding the as I know there is a hadith that we should not pray where there are graves and all these things. So what about the prophetic mosque, or it is outside that area?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Wajazak ya akhi. We have Brother Abdullah from Nigeria.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi. Good evening to you.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for studying.
Ameen.
Yes, I have one question regarding the rawatib on Friday.
Regarding?
Are you supposed to the rawatib on Friday? The national prayer.
Okay.
During after the zuhur, when you pray Salat al-Jum'ah, how are you going to now take care of the 4 before zuhur and the 1 after zuhur?
Okay, I'll answer your question. Any more questions?
Thank you very much.
وحياك الله أخي أهلا وسهلا. Sister Amina from Jordan. Sister Amina?
Hello.
Yes, sister.
I have one question.
Okay.
If any one of our non-Muslim friends wants to pray for us, for our health, in their church or during their in their church, is it okay for them to pray, or should we stop them from doing so?
Okay. I will answer your question, inshallah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will begin, inshallah, answering these questions. Abu Sufyan from India has 3 questions. He's asking about the Tablighi Jama'ah. And we've discussed this so many times, and we've said that these people are among the kindest, the most generous, the most truthful, and they are so caring for the ummah, and they have a lot of good traits in them. But he's complaining that we are dealing with them well, but they are forcing us sort of, or pressuring us, so that we go out with them on their 3 days or 10 days or 40 days, you know, when they go out and they travel around, and they call this khuruj. So what's the ruling on that? The ruling, akhi, is to maintain your good relations with them. Give them a big smile. When you see them, give them a big hug. When they come to your house, honor them. Give them food, and try to be nice to them. But do not involve with them, because these practices, as we see it, is forms of innovation. Designating these number of days, going with the 6 pillars they always mention in the very beginning after Salat al-Fajr, saying that I've did this and I've did that, which they call Tibyan or Tabyin. And depending on the book of Tabligh Nisab and Faza'il al-A'mal, all of this, we believe that it is wrong. If you have knowledge, advise them. If you don't, just maintain to have good relations with them. Second question is asking about giving zakat to Syria. Is it best, or giving it to our relatives? I believe that at the moment, the brothers and sisters in Syria are more in need of our zakat than our loved ones who live next to us. Unless there is a specific relative who has a problem. For example, maybe I have a relative of mine, a cousin, who has to undergo a surgery, otherwise he's going to die. So this is an immediate need. I may give him from the zakat. But generally speaking, the brothers and sisters in Syria need your help. And I know from where I come from the Gulf, and other Arab countries, and also in Europe, in America, the Muslims usually utilize the time of the vacation to travel. Some may come to Umrah and spending the time in the holy shrines, and this is good, this is positive. But if you had done your Umrah before, so what's mandatory, you've done it. And instead of spending 5,000 or 10,000 pounds on your trip for Umrah, I believe that it's more blessed for you to give it to trustworthy people who would take the money and give it to our brothers and sisters in Syria, whether to fight the oppression or to support the camps of refugees that are found in Jordan, Turkey, and elsewhere. His third question was about, we know that it is not permissible to pray in a masjid that has a grave in it, especially if it's in the area of the Qibla. So what about the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ? We've answered this so many times before. And again, this is a basic question. Whoever brings you this allegation, and usually they are the grave worshippers who try to justify worshipping their graves, their saints, their awliyas, and trying to justify putting or burying their saints in these masjids. So whenever you talk to them and tell them that this is haram, they say, look at the Prophet's grave, alayhi salatu wasalam. It is in the middle of the masjid. And this is a misconception. Anyone knows that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, when you ask them, where was he buried when he died? No one would tell you in the masjid. Every single one would tell you he was buried in the house of Mother Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. So the Prophet ﷺ was not buried in the masjid. Only 90 or 100 plus years after his death, one of the caliphs of the time of the Umayyah Khilafah, or whatever they call it, wanted to expand the masjid, because the masjid was expanded at the time of Uthman, may Allah be pleased with him, and At that time of that Khalifa, he wanted to expand the masjid, so he instructed them to include the house. So he instructed them to move on and include the house of Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, and the grave, and make that into the masjid. The companions, or the tabi'een that is, who were alive at the time, such as Sa'id ibn Musayyib, may Allah be pleased with him, and others, they stood firm and told them that this is not permissible. You cannot enter or allow the grave to be within the perimeters of the masjid. He did not listen, as it is a norm with politicians and with people with power, and he did that. Even he was advised not to do it. So the Prophet of the grave of the Prophet is a different story. Besides, if this is the Qibla and the grave of the Prophet with his two companions, Abu Bakr and Umar, is in front of you, if you look inside this chamber, you will find that there are only 3 walls, and it's like a triangle, and the spear or the head of the triangle is facing the person, facing the Qibla. So if you want actually to face the chamber, you have to come from this side or from this side, or give you back to the Qibla and face it this side, because it's a triangle. You cannot face the wall. And those who pray to the chamber, because it's in between them and the Qibla, they are not actually facing the chamber because of this triangle. Abdullah from Nigeria, he was asking about praying the highly recommended voluntary prayers known as Ar-Rawatib. Specifically in Ramadan, on Friday. We know that Dhuhr prayer, there are 6 units that we pray as voluntary. So we pray 4 rak'ahs before Dhuhr, and after we conclude the 4 rak'ahs of Dhuhr, we pray 2 rak'ahs afterwards. So this is 6. In Friday, it's a different thing because it is not related to Dhuhr. So before Friday prayer, there is no recommended, highly recommended voluntary prayers. There is no rawatib. After it, the sunnah is either one of 2. If you're going to pray the voluntary prayer in the masjid, the Prophet used to pray 4 rak'ahs. But whenever he did not pray it in the masjid and went home, he used to pray it in his home, only 2. So this is the sunnah that you are advised to follow. Amina from Jordan, she is saying that if we have a Christian friend and he or she wants to pray for us, I have a calamity, I am sick, I have debts to pay, my children are not obedient, my wife is so-and-so, or in her case, her husband is so-and-so, he's not that kind, not that loving. So she's asking, if a Christian friend wants to pray for me in his church or on Sunday service or whenever, is this allowed, or should I stop him? You cannot stop people from praying for you. If someone, even if he was an idol worshipper, comes to you and say, may Allah grant you health, and you say, no, don't say that, you're a mushrik. This is pathetic. This is not logical. Anyone who gives you a helping hand, you should accept that, but you should not ask for that. It's a different story when I go to someone and I say, pray for me. Or if I go to a Christian or a Jew and I say, supplicate for me that my debts are paid off. This is completely out of the question, because they follow a different religion than ours, and we are not entitled to ask them or request them to pray while they are on a false religion. This is what a Muslim believes, and if a Muslim thinks otherwise, if a Muslim thinks that no, they are on the right religion, then this is a very dangerous thing, because it might nullify his Islam. If you go to a Christian, if you go to a Jew and ask him, if you go to them and ask them, is the religion of a Muslim acceptable to you? Said, no, it's a false religion. So why should we look at their religion and say that it's a right religion? It was right at the time of Jesus, it was right at the time of Moses, but with the message of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, it abrogated everything and it erased everything, and Allah only accepts the deen of Islam. We have Brother Umar from Dubai.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I have a question here.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is, you just said in the show earlier that Tablighi Jamaat, going to Tabligh is an innovation.
True.
I want to know if you call that an innovation when what Tablighi Jamaat do is it propagates message of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Allah, and it propagates Islam. It really guides those Muslims who have faltered towards Islam. If you choose to call it an innovation because Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't do it, then Huda TV and all these channels, these are also streamed through the modern media, which was not there during Prophet times, and it's an innovation as well. If Tablighi Jamaat, which works at grassroots level, is an innovation, then what's your ruling on mainstream media, internet, television, and everything that is advertised in the mainstream media? Please clarify my stand.
I will, inshallah, Brother Umar. Jazakallah khair.
Okay.
Brother Umar's, we have Uthman from Saudi Arabia.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Brother, I need to. One is that my brother in the US, he has asked that does he need to do wudu again if he sees like that, because in summer season the women do not wear full clothing, so they would wear shorts and clothes like that. So does he need to do wudu again if he just sees the legs or something like that, the body part? Does he need to do the wudu again? Or is the wudu nullified by seeing such body parts by non-mahram?
Okay, any other question?
And the second question is that one of the ladies I know, she used to pray a lot of Quran. She recited a lot of Quran, but then she said it to someone, and since then she feels that she doesn't want to recite. She sits to recite, but then she says that I always feel like getting up and not sitting there and reciting as much as I used to. So is there any dua for this, that all this goes, the shaitan goes away and she continues reciting the way she used to?
Does she suspect that this person who saw her recite the Quran gave her an evil eye?
Sorry?
Does she suspect that the person who saw her reading the Quran gave her an evil eye, and then
Maybe.
afterwards?
Yes, she suspects that.
Okay, I will answer your question, inshallah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Assalamualaikum.
Brother Ashfaq from Saudi Arabia. Okay, apparently we lost Brother Ashfaq. Let's go to Ashfaq. Ashfaq again with us from Saudi Arabia. Yes, Brother Ashfaq.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, Sheikh?
I'm fine, and jazakallah khair for asking.
Sheikh, I have 3 questions.
MashaAllah.
Number 1, how does a woman have to behave in front of her brother-in-laws and cousin brothers? In fact, we know that she has to do an hijab. Can she sit and talk to the brother-in-laws and cousins with a proper hijab, or she has to abstain from that?
Okay.
This is my first question.
Okay.
My second question, this is regarding Umrah. When a person comes for an Umrah, nowadays what we are just hearing is that when they go back from the Umrah to another place, they have to do Tawaful Wida.
Okay.
Is it there or not?
Okay. Third question.
Because I was told the Tawaful Wida is only for the Hajj, not for the Umrah or for any other thing.
Third question.
And my third question is, for a woman for the Iddah period, can she move from one place to another place?
What kind of iddah?
I mean, when the woman loses her husband.
Okay, so death iddah.
Yeah. Can she travel from one place to another place before she's completing the period, or she has to stay in the one place?
Okay.
This is my question. Please
I will
answer me.
answer. Inshallah. Qaddar. Okay, going back to Umar from Dubai. The brother's question is quite clear. You say that Tablighi Jama'ah, they have innovations, and we see that they do a lot of good, and they call people to Islam, and they call people to Allah and to recite the Quran, and hence this means that even Huda channel or Peace TV channel are also called innovations because they were not at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Akhi, the definition of innovation is to make something, to get closer to Allah by it, that was not at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So for example, if I were to say that every time I answer the call of nature and come out, I will recite 10 verses of the Quran. Every time. And I make it a must on me. This is an innovation. Because though reciting the Quran is a good thing, but associating it with this particular thing at this particular time and making it a habit and trying to get closer to Allah with it, this makes it an innovation. Now, there are means that lead to goodness that we are recommended to do, such as compiling the Quran, writing the Quran, making it in soft copy, making it available to people to read and to read the interpretation and the commentary of it. This is not a bid'ah, because an original bid'ah or an additional bid'ah differ than this. Now, when we come to our brothers in Jama'at al-Tabligh, when we see that they have an Amir, and this Amir has no political powers and he has a lot of religious powers, he cannot be outside the loop of the leadership that Islam tells us to have our Pledge of Allegiance to. When we look at the things that they focus on, the beard, the thobe, the miswak, and prayer in the masjid, all four are top and they are excellent, but they do not focus on anything else. So if you go to them and say, listen, what is the right thing to do? To put my hands on my chest or under my navel? They said, don't talk about these things, because these things make grudges and eventually we will not be brothers anymore. Studying knowledge make grudges? Okay, what if you ask anyone from the Tabligh, what about the jihad? What do you think of defending the Muslims in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Syria, in Palestine, in anywhere that Muslims are being oppressed by the enemy? So what do you think of jihad? They say, ooh, this is a taboo, don't talk about jihad. Why? It's part of Islam. I said, no, this is not at the moment. We have to purify ourselves. We are in the big jihad rather than the small jihad. When you ask him about designating 3 days, 10 days, 40 days, etc., I don't know about the duration or the specific information, they will say, no, this is only administrative issues. But these administrative issues, you have to stick with them. You cannot stay for 2 days. You cannot go for 4 days or 5 days, that is. If you go to them and see that they visit every Sunday and Tuesday between Maghrib and Isha, and that is the time, or between Asr and Maghrib, that it is. And if you look at so many things attached to this Jama'ah, you know that this is not part of the Prophet Sunnah, nor of his companions. And never ever we saw the Prophet going for 3 days or for 10 days on da'wah and leaving their children, leaving their wives unattended for 40 days. Akhi, this da'wah you should devote to your kids, to your wives, to your relatives, rather than going and sleeping in masjids and depending on people to feed you. Don't get me wrong. I'm at all not attacking the brothers from the Tabligh. I love them. I have few close friends of them, and I believe that they are the kindest. They are the most generous. They are so down to earth. But this does not mean we have to take them as a full package and say that, and not only that, and endorse them. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they did not have cars. So is cars considered to be bid'ah? Definitely not. This is not something I'm doing to get closer to Allah. On the other hand, what the innovators may be doing, they are doing what they're doing, thinking that they are getting closer to Allah. And definitely I don't think and believe that Huda is an innovation. Uthman from Saudi Arabia, she says that her brother lives in the US. May Allah Azza wa Jal help him. And it's summertime and there's so much nudity on the streets. So is he obliged, whenever he looks at a woman and they're all everywhere, is he obliged to make ablution so that he could pray? The answer is, first of all, he has to lower his gaze. So even if you're surrounded by them, you should not look. The Prophet only allowed you for the first glance. And some of them would go all the way like this and not blinking. What are you doing? He says, it's the first glance, Sheikh. No, this is not the first glance. Don't play around. The first glance is when you see something and you immediately move away. Not look at something and go up and down and sideways. This is not the first glance. This is the 10th or the 20th glance, and this is haram. Secondly, if he looks at women, this is by itself does not nullify his wudu. This does not affect his wudu. What affects his wudu, if he gets excited and then prosthetic fluid comes out. If he has any sort of discharge, then yes, he has to perform wudu after cleaning himself and cleaning his underwears. The second question, Jawad, Abu Jawad from Jordan.
Sheikh.
Yes, bro.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, you just said before that after Jummah, we should pray for Sunnah, 2 and 2. And if we want to pray at home, there should be 2 Sunnah.
True.
But last 2 or 3 episodes before, Dr. Saleh said other way around. He said 2 in the mosque and 4 at home.
Dr.
I don't know which is correct.
Dr. who?
Dr. Saleh.
Dr. Salah, Sheikh Muhammad Salah.
Yes.
Well,
he said that 2 in the mosque and 4 at home.
Okay.
Maybe I misunderstood, but I just want to confirm that which is correct.
Okay.
And my question number 2 is that zikr. Like normally it happens, that like in the car when I'm driving, if I use, I want to listen talawa on the tape, but I cannot concentrate. But there is a hadith that we should pay full attention when there is a talawa.
Okay.
So can I do zikr while driving instead of talawa?
Okay. I will answer your question.
Thank you.
Abdul Samad from Saudi Arabia. Abdul Samad.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
كيف حالك يا شيخ؟
الحمد لله رب العالمين.
Yes, sir, I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Can anybody perform Umrah on behalf of deceased person?
A deceased person. Okay. Second question.
Yeah. Second question, is it allowed to cover head while praying?
Allowed or mandatory?
Yeah, compulsory or what?
Okay. Okay. I will answer the question, inshallah. Okay, moving on to Ashfaq's question. Uthman's question from Saudi Arabia. And she is asking about a situation that a woman used to have a portion of the Quran. She recites it every night or every day. She was constant and she always continued to recite the Quran. And all of a sudden, a person came and saw her, and afterwards, she's unable to touch the Quran. Most likely, it's an evil eye. And there's a difference between envy and evil eye. Evil eye could happen from good people. And it happens without intending it to happen. So I see a beautiful car with a friend, and I say, wow, what a car. Boom, it explodes or something bad happens to it. I didn't intend that. I didn't even want it or dreamt of it. But it happens. So always when you see something you like, you say, may Allah bless it. May Allah bless you. Tabarakallah, Allah yabarik. This blocks your evil eye. Now, the question is, this sister is unable to read the Quran anymore. Choice number 1 is that you go to that particular individual and ask him to perform wudu for you, and also wash the interior or the inside of his garment or of his trousers, just the thing that touches slightly, not the whole thing, that touches his body from the inside, and then take the water of his ablution and the water that he washed his clothes with, and come from behind that sister and throw the water on her head and body, and inshallah she will be cured. This is number 1, the solution for evil eye, if I can identify an individual who gave it to me. And this is backed by the hadith, of course, authentic hadith. The second way, if I don't know the individual, or if I ask him and he refuses, the second way is to do ruqyah. And I believe that if this sister or someone else, with her permission, recites Surah Al-Fatiha 3 times, the last Ayat Al-Kursi 3 times, or 5 or 7, last 2 ayahs of Surah Al-Baqarah, the last 3 chapters of the Quran, Qul Huwallahu Ahad, Qul Huwallahu Qul Rabbun Nas, and blows with every recitation, and then she drinks from that in the morning, in the afternoon and before she goes to bed, and if she washes her face with it, I believe in 2-3 days, inshallah, she'll be cured and she would be good as gold. Depending on Allah Azza wa Jal, not on anything else. Ashfaq had 3 questions. One, what is the etiquette of a woman in front of her in-laws, her brother-in-law, her brothers-in-law, mainly speaking, because her father-in-law is her mahram. So what should she do? And he's saying that she is wearing the full hijab. If she is wearing the full hijab, she may sit with them but not socialize. So if they have to eat together in the presence of her husband and other mahrams on the same table, and she's completely covered, and she's not socializing, she's not laughing for their jokes, she's not cracking jokes herself, she's not exchanging dialogues, she's just eating, this is permissible. But 99.9%, this is not applicable. She has to laugh, she has to join in and blend in and maybe joke with her brother-in-law, and this is completely forbidden. And negative things happen as we speak because of such mixing. Maybe it does not happen the first week, first month, first year. Eventually it would happen. May Allah protect us all from it happening. Second question, he's asking about Tawaf al-Wada', the farewell Tawaf. And he says that we hear that one, after performing Umrah, before leaving Mecca back to his town or to his country, he has to perform this Tawaf. And the majority of scholars and the most authentic opinion is that it is not mandatory. If you want to do it as a form of worship, it's recommended. But if you just simply pack your bags and leave, there's nothing wrong in that. Farewell Tawaf or Tawaf al-Wada' is mandatory for those who perform Hajj. As for Umrah, it is not included. His third question about Sister Salma from Dubai.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, I have 3 questions.
Okay.
One of the questions is regarding about dawa. I am not able, I am converted, but I am not able to give dawa. But I am able to translate the lecture of our scholars.
Okay.
And I want to know if it's allowed for me to make translation without their permission, or I have to ask the lecturer, which I have interest, for their permission to translate in my own language.
Okay. Second question.
And especially, I refer not for the script about YouTube, because it's much easier for use in our time now.
Okay. Second question.
This is one of the questions. Another question is regarding about using the Quran with transliteration in English during the period as a lady, if it's allowed.
Okay.
For a lady or no.
Okay. Third question.
Did you get the question? Okay, thank you. And the third question is regarding about, I don't know, how can I explain? Being in a non-Muslim country, we have some, we cannot say a Muslim community because it's very little. It's led by one Muslim, theoretic. Practically, this person leave the Islam, come back to the Christians. And now he came back again to the Islam, only the God knows if he came or no. And he lives in this small community, and there's a lot of misguidance and a lot of missings.
Okay.
Who we can speak to claim this one because they use the money for Umrah and for Hajj and going in our own way.
Okay. I will answer the question.
Thank you. Allah bless you.
Allah Ameen. Sister Amina from Nigeria. Okay. I apologize for Sister Amina. Okay. We have Jawad's question from Jordan. Abu Jawad, I apologize. Sorry. Abu Jawad's question from Jordan. He's saying that Sheikh Dr. Muhammad Salah stated that if you're going to pray in the masjid, you pray 2 rak'ahs, and if you're going to pray home, you pray 4 rak'ahs. First of all, I advise any brother or sister asking me a question not to mention any sheikh's name, because it's impolite, it's inappropriate for me, not for you. It's inappropriate for me to say, well, Sheikh Muhammad Salah was wrong, or I believe that he meant this and he meant that. So just say, I heard a Sheikh say so and so and so, and I'll answer you. Now, regarding this question, I do respect Sheikh Muhammad Salah. I might be wrong. I have to refer back to my knowledge. Maybe I'm wrong, and I will not elaborate anymore. What I believe, what I know, it is 4 rak'ahs in the masjid or 2 rak'ahs in home. I might be wrong, and he might be wrong. It has to be clarified. Maybe inshallah he would clarify this on his Sunday show, or I will do this if we meet next Friday, and Allah knows best. His second question, Abu Jawad, is saying that while driving, it is essential for you to listen to the Quran. So I'm unable to concentrate. So is it okay for me to turn it off and just make dhikr? All is good, akhi. Both are good. It depends on what you can utilize and what benefits you most. I drive and I listen to the Quran. Maybe I can concentrate in 70%. This is good. My lack of concentration is not because I'm doing something else. It is because I'm driving. So listening to the Quran is beneficial, even if it's 60% utilization or 70%. It is much better for me personally than offering dhikr. Abdul Samad from Saudi Arabia, he's asking, is it permissible to offer umrah on behalf of a deceased person? The answer is yes. And then he says, is it compulsory to cover the head for a man when praying? The answer is definitely no. It is not compulsory. Is it recommended or not? It depends on the city. It depends on the country. So if I go, for example, to India, or if I go to the US, and I find the whole community on the streets, they have nothing on their heads. But the minute they walk into the masjid, they wear their white caps, or they tie a handkerchief on their head in a very strange way. And when you ask them, and they say that we're doing this for salah, this is wrong. Now, doing it for salat is definitely wrong, because now you are innovating. You're covering your head without any authentic evidence. But if you are in places like, for example, Saudi Arabia, where everybody covers their head, it is recommended that you take the best form when you come to the masjid and you dress. Sister Amina from Nigeria. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Turn your TV off and listen to me from the phone.
Okay. I want to ask, is it compulsory for a female who is performing prayer in the house to do ikama? And secondly, I want to ask, what type of prayer is good for the Jeddah?
For what?
Jeddah.
I did not understand this last word.
Okay, I heard that it's not good to recite Quranic verse during Jeddah. What type of verse is recommended during Jeddah?
Okay. قراءة القرآن في السجود. Okay. Going back to Salma from Dubai, she's saying that she cannot make da'wah. She's unfit. She's unable. She doesn't have what it takes to make da'wah. But she is capable of translation. So can she translate lectures of sheikhs, for example, lessons, etc.? And does she need the permission of the sheikh himself? The answer is no. For example, if I have a lecture and she comes and she wants to translate my lecture from English into Swahili or to any other language, she has the permission to do this, and she does not need to contact me, because when I gave that lecture, it is for the sake of Allah. So the information is open to all. There are no rights, there are no copyrights. But you cannot translate unless you master both languages. So if you know English a little bit, but you know your language quite well, this is not permissible for you to translate it. Especially if it deals with Quran and Sunnah. Because the main condition is that you master, and I mean master, both languages. I read a translation for one of the brothers from the US, when he was talking about those who are martyred other than those who are killed at battle. So he's saying that the hadith of the Prophet, the well-known hadith alayhi salatu wasalam, where he said that the person who dies in a burning house, or it collapses on him, or he drowns, or a woman while in labor, all of these are considered to be martyred in Islam. Though they did not die at battle, but the Prophet says that if they were patient, Allah would give them the reward of a martyr. And the brother is translating, and then he came to the word al-mat'un. So he translated it into the person who dies by stabbing. And this is definitely not what the Prophet meant, alayhi salatu wasalam. Mat'un means a person who has the plague, who dies by the epidemic or pandemic, whatever they call it, which is known as the plague. Now there is another meaning of mat'un, which is a person who was stabbed to death. So the brother, may Allah forgive him, mistranslated it because he did not master the Arabic language well. And it is not permissible for you to do this unless you can master it. Okay, we have Ashfaq from Saudi Arabia.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salam tullah barakatuh.
Jazakumullah for clarifying my questions.
Okay.
Sheikh, I asked you for the 3 questions, but I think you have missed out my 3rd question regarding the Iddah period for a woman.
Yeah, true. I apologize. I will answer it, inshallah. Sister Afia from Saudi Arabia.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, I have one comment and one question.
Okay.
I will say the question first.
Okay.
Regarding can we sisters make wudu when we are impure in the case of menses and in the case of janaba? And the second one is the comment regarding that Tabligh Jamaat. We have many Tabligh Jamaat in India. And very unfortunately, these people, they are working with great effort here in Saudi Arabia. Here also they come and they call and they make groups in the masjid and they tell men to stop and all. And the thing is that the Amir of that, the head and the sheikh, whatever is of that group is not qualified from any Islamic institution like Azhar University or Makkah University or Medina University. No qualification such as there. And the other thing is that when we ask, if the person asks any question, any sick question, any normal question, how to behave with the parents, how to behave with the wife, or anything, they are not able to say. They are saying not to open the mouth.
Okay.
These are the things they are practicing. I just wanted to share it. That's why I have shared this.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you, sister. Ali from Bahrain. Ali from Bahrain.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, I have some questions, please.
Okay, quite quickly, inshallah.
Okay. First of all is regarding istighfar. There's a hadith that says about man lazim al-istighfar. I want to know exactly what that means, and I want to know how exactly I should do it, and like the benefits I can get from that.
Okay.
And also, I've been watching some videos on YouTube, and I've been seeing like these things that they were showing of like some statues of the Christians that have for Jesus, and like it starts tearing randomly and by itself, and all these kind of things. And I just want that clarified. And just one last thing.
I didn't get your second question.
How I can like do any extra deeds.
I didn't get your second question.
That is possible.
I didn't get your second question about the statues of Jesus, etc. Peace be upon him. What was the question?
The question is, what is like the thing that they're showing exactly? Like, I want to know, because they just get this statue and suddenly they say it just starts tearing by itself.
Okay.
I just want to know, is that like some shaitan or what is it exactly?
Okay. And the third question?
Yeah, and the third thing is just I want to know what extra deeds that I can do, because I want to do more.
I don't know what you're doing.
No, because I want to know what extra deeds I can do. extra things
Okay.
other than the obligatory.
Okay, I'll answer inshallah. Okay, so we will not be taking any more questions inshallah. So don't call. You may call and ask for my number from the control room, and they'll supply it to you inshallah. Sister Salma, I hope I'm following the sequence. She's saying that in her hometown they have a Muslim community, which is a small community, but this Muslim community is being led by a person who was a Muslim and then apostated and then became a Muslim again, but he has lots of shortcomings and wrong practices, and he's leading the community. So what are they going to do? Because he's in control of allowing people to go for Umrah or for Hajj, so people taking this as a bribe from them. Well, first of all, it is a role of people of knowledge. So you have to see in your community those who have knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah, and they have to come forward and confront this man and ask the community not to make him lead, especially if he has a lot of innovations and wrongdoings. Amina from Nigeria, she's saying that, if I understood her question correctly, she's asking about a woman, does she make adhan and iqamah if she's praying in her home? And the answer is no, she does not make adhan. As for the iqamah, it is recommended, and there's nothing wrong in that inshallah. She's saying that we are not allowed to recite the Quran while in the sujood. So what kind of supplications we can make? The sky is the limit. You are not allowed to recite the Quran when you are in prostration. But what to do? Supplicate. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal for forgiveness, for Jannah, for paying your debts, for making you healthy, for making your children, your loved ones, whatever you want to supplicate. And of course, there are a number of prophetic sayings. That would be one of the best. You have to go and refer to Husn al-Muslim, the Fortress of the Muslim, or other books that talk about this topic. Ashfaq, third question that I've accidentally missed. He's saying that a woman, when she is in her waiting period, and we have two types of waiting period. One that is a result of separation, khul', divorce, whatever, between the two husbands, both are alive. And the second is known as Jeddah, which is the waiting period that resulted from the death of the husband. And this is, usually speaking, normal conditions, 4 months and 10 days. Unless she's pregnant. If she's pregnant and the husband dies, her waiting period is until she delivers. Whether she delivers an hour from his death or 8 months from his death, regardless, this is her waiting period. He's asking, is she entitled to travel? And the answer is no. Part of the iddah is that she stays in her home. She doesn't wear makeup, she doesn't wear perfume, she does not go out, and she does not show jubilation or happiness, because this is a mourning incident. She has to mourn her husband. Now, is she allowed to travel for Umrah, for Hajj? Definitely not. Is she allowed to get out of her house? If there is a necessity, yes, and preferably in the morning. So if she works and she has to go to her work as a teacher or as a doctor or whatever, if she taking care of her sheep, or if she has a farm, she has to work, it is permissible for her to leave to attend her affairs in the morning and come back before sunset. If she has to go to the doctor for an emergency and the appointment is in the evening, she may go and come back. But is she allowed to go and visit people, attend weddings, go to here and there? The answer is no. She is supposed to wait that waiting period as instructed. Traveling is not permissible unless it is a life and death situation. So if she lives in a country where she has no one to take care of her, and her husband dies and she has to go back to her family, this is permissible, of course, with someone who would attend her, so that she does not travel without a mahram. Afia from Saudi Arabia, she says, what is the ruling on performing wudu for someone who is in her menses? The answer is, it is not recommended, it is not preferred, because it has no value at all. It has no value for a woman in her menses to perform wudu, and this is the majority of the scholars' said this, even if she wants to go to bed, performing wudu has no effect. While a person in his state of sexual purity, if he's junub, yes, in this case, he has to or she has to perform wudu, because this sort of makes it a lesser impact or effect on a person when he's in the state of junub. And that is why the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when someone asked him, "O Prophet of Allah, does one of us go to bed in the state of sexual impurity?" The Prophet said, yes, if he performs wudu. So for a person who is in the state of sexual impurity, he performs wudu. For a woman who's in her menses, she does not. She is commenting on the brothers in the tabligh, and she says that they're not qualified from the Azhar, etc. And if you ask them about being kind to your family, I believe that this is an exaggeration. If you ask them about being kind to your children, they will tell you that this is part of Islam. They're not complete ignorant. If you tell them about connecting to your next of kin, they would not tell you, oh, this is something we cannot talk about. No, they will, but they don't have the knowledge that backs it up, because they focus on few things that would elevate their iman. They do a lot of good work in calling people to Islam. And we usually say, Akhi, don't fight them, work with them. So if they manage to get people out of pubs and bars back to the masjid, you take these people from the masjid and teach them and enlighten them and show them the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, so that they become practicing. So we should join forces, but at the same time we have to be clear to say and identify what's happening. Brother Ali from Bahrain, he's saying that what's the meaning of to continuously do istighfar? How do I do this? It's simple. The companions like Ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, he said that whenever the Prophet ﷺ used to sit with us in a gathering, each time he sits with us, we count more than 70 times seeking Allah's forgiveness. Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. So you can simply say Astaghfirullah, Astaghfirullah when you're driving, when you're working out. Seeking Allah's forgiveness constantly opens a lot of doors, and it is out of this world. If you practice it, if you do it, if you always seek Allah's forgiveness, Prophet Nuh, peace be upon him, said that it would do a number of things, as mentioned in the surah. Allah Azza wa Jal would open the gates of heaven and you will get rain, and Allah Azza wa Jal will bless your children, Allah Azza wa Jal will grant you money, etc. His second question was, if I understood it correctly, he saw on YouTube clips of Christians shooting saints, pious people, Christ, peace be upon him. They made a statue, and this is completely forbidden in our religion. It is not permissible to have a statue of a king, of a president, of a prophet, of a saint, by no means. And they are the most severely punished people on the Day of Judgment, those who make these statues. So it's completely out of the question. But he said that in some statues in Guatemala, in Nicaragua, in different countries, there are statues that people make pilgrimage to. And they see that they have tears coming from their eyes, or sometimes milk, or sometimes honey. And they say that this is a miracle. This is not a miracle. This is most likely a gimmick done by the priests, who, when people come and perform pilgrimage, they would give sacrifice, they would give donations, and the priests become much and much richer. This is from shaitan. This is from the devil. There's nothing like that at all, neither in Christianity nor in Islam. So if this is your question, it's a hoax. It's like seeing a cross flying, or a balloon with, or seeing lights coming with Mother Mary, as they say, coming in the middle of the night. All of this are gimmicks. Brother Ali is asking how to increase in good deeds. Akhi, the sky is the limit. So beside the mandatory, which is the most basic, if you don't do the mandatory deeds and you're asking for good deeds, don't. This is the best thing you can get close to Allah by. But you can always recite more Quran. You can always offer night prayers. You can fast Mondays and Thursdays and 3 white days of every month. You have to connect to your next of kin. You have to be involved in da'wah. So if you're good in teaching people, calling people to Islam, this is also good. Watering, giving people water is the best charity in Islam, as the hadith says. So digging a well, providing a desalination plant or whatever, supporting Huda channel. If you support Huda channel financially and they are able, imagine in Europe, we need about £21,000 a month to go live in all of Europe, Huda. Imagine if someone has this amount to pay it monthly, £21,000 sterlings, and he manages to get Huda in every house in Europe, not only UK, France, Germany, everywhere. While you are asleep on your bed, how many good deeds do you think you are getting a day if simply 300,000 Muslims watch you, and there are more in Europe? So these are good deeds if you can pay for it, if you can do it, if you can feed the hungry, give help to our brothers in the shelters in Syria. The sky is the limit. I'm afraid that this is all the time we have. Until we meet next time, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass. Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله الأمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new episode of Ask Huda, being broadcasted live from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. In Jeddah, where I live, it is time for school holidays, and to some it is a great deal of excitement. To others, it is means of frustration and depression. And this is depending on where people come from. Those who are happy usually don't have an objective in life. So they see that these 2 or 3 months off, it's a way out of everything that they used to do at school, which means that their day turns into night and their nights turn into days. They spend their time doing things that the least we could say they would not be rewarded for, and in a lot of cases they would be sinful for doing them. You see a lot of the youth, especially boys and girls, doing things that are sinful, and when you talk to them and give them an advice, they say, Sheikh, we're just killing time. And what? Jordan, Turkey and elsewhere. His third question was about, we know that it is not permissible to pray in a masjid that has a grave in it, especially if it's in the area of the Qibla. So what about the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ? We've answered this so many times before. And again, this is a basic question. Whoever brings you this allegation, and usually they are the grave worshippers who try to justify worshipping their graves, their saints, their awliyas, and trying to justify putting or burying their saints in these masjids. So whenever you talk to them and tell them that this is haram, they say, look at the Prophet's grave, ﷺ. It is in the middle of the masjid. And this is a misconception. Anyone knows that the Prophet ﷺ, when you ask them, where was he buried when he died? No one would tell you in the masjid. every single one would tell you he was buried in the house of Mother Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her. So the Prophet ﷺ was not buried in the masjid. Only 90 or 100 plus years after his death, one of the caliphs of the time of the Umayyah Khilafah, or whatever they call it, wanted to expand the masjid, because the masjid was expanded at the time of Uthman, may Allah be pleased with him. And at that time of that Khalifa, he wanted to expand the masjid, so he instructed them to include the house. So he instructed them to move on and include the house of Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, and the grave, and make that into the masjid. The companions, or the tabi'een, that is, who were alive at the time, such as Sa'id ibn Musayyib, may Allah be pleased with him, and others, they stood firm and told him that this is not permissible. You cannot enter or allow the grave to be within the perimeters of the masjid. He did not listen, as it is a norm with politicians and with people with power, and he did that. Even he was advised not to do it. So the Prophet of the grave of the around, and they call this khuruj. So what's the ruling on that? The ruling, akhi, is to maintain your good relations with them. Give them a big smile. When you see them, give them a big hug. When they come to your house, honor them. Give them food, and try to be nice to them. But do not involve with them, because these practices, as we see it, is forms of innovation. Designating these number of days, going with the 6 pillars they always mention in the very beginning after Salat al-Fajr, saying that I've did this and I've did that, which they call Tibyan or Tabyin. And depending on the book of Tabligh Nisab and Faza'il A'mal, all of this, we believe that it is wrong. If you have knowledge, advise them. If you don't, just maintain to have good relations with them. Second question is asking about giving zakat to Syria. Is it best, or giving it to our relatives? I believe that at the moment, the brothers and sisters in Syria are more in need of our zakat than our loved ones who live next to us. Unless there is a specific relative who has a problem. For example, maybe I have a relative of mine, a cousin, who has to undergo a surgery, otherwise he's going to die. So this is an immediate need. I may give him from the zakat. But generally speaking, the brothers and sisters in Syria need your help. And I know from where I come from the Gulf and other Arab countries, and also in Europe, in America, the Muslims usually utilize the time of the vacation to travel. Some may come to Umrah and spending the time in the holy shrines, and this is good, this is positive. But if you had done your Umrah before, so what's mandatory, you've done it. And instead of spending 5,000 or 10,000 pounds on your trip for Umrah, I believe that it's more blessed for you to give it to trustworthy people who would take the money and give it to our brothers and sisters in Syria, whether to fight the oppression or to support the camps of refugees that are found in Jeddah.
How? But the Syrian crisis is a more deep thing. So should I can give zakat to the Syrian crisis?
Okay, number 3.
My third question is regarding the, as I know there is a hadith that we should not pray where there are graves and all these things. So what about the prophetic mosque, or it is outside that area?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Wajdak ya akhi. We have Brother Abdullah from Nigeria.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi. Good evening to you.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for studying.
Ameen.
Yes, I have one question regarding the rawatib on Friday.
Regarding?
Are you supposed to the rawatib on Friday? The national prayer.
Okay.
During after the zuhur, when you pray Salat al-Jum'ah, how are you going to now take care of the 4 before zuhur and the 1 after zuhur?
Okay, I'll answer your question. Any more questions?
Thank you very much.
Wa hayyakallah. Ahlan wa sahlan. Sister Amina from Jordan. Sister Amina?
Hello?
Yes, sister.
I have one question.
Okay.
If any one of our non-Muslim friends wants to pray for us, for our health, in the church or during their in their church, is it okay for them to pray, or should we stop them from doing so?
Okay. I will answer your question, inshallah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will begin, inshallah, answering these questions. Abu Sufyan from India has 3 questions. He's asking about the Tablighi Jama'ah. And we've discussed this so many times, and we've said that these people are among the kindest, the most generous, the most truthful, and they are so caring for the ummah, and they have a lot of good traits in them. But he's complaining that we are dealing with them well, but they are forcing us sort of, or pressuring us, so that we go out with them on their 3 days or 10 days or 40 days, you know, when they go out and they travel. Crime did time do to deserve to be killed for? People, unfortunately, when they don't have knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah, when they do not know the purpose, the reason of their creation, when they don't have an objective, they are lost. It is exactly like if someone wakes up 6 o'clock in the morning, takes a shower, puts his best suit or clothes, gets into his car and starts the car and drive. Where? He doesn't know. He doesn't have a target or an objective. This person would reach nowhere very soon. Muslims are unlike this. You have a purpose. Allah Azza wa Jal created you for a purpose, and you should know this and work for it, because your days are limited on this earth. Abu Sufyan from India.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
MashaAllah, saying Assim, your programs we like too much, and we all family we watch it.
Jazakallah khair. Wa jazak ya akhi, jazakallah khair.
I have 3 questions.
Okay.
My first question is regarding the Ahl Jamaat. You know, as you told me before, that they are good people, they are nice people, we should exchange gifts with them. But you know, sometimes they are they are not directly, but indirectly they are forcing us to come for dawah, and you have to give dawah, it is compulsory, you have to go 4 months, you have to go every 3 weeks, every month, like this, you know. So like emotional blackmail.
Okay.
So how to, they're telling it is a compulsory, because Prophet ﷺ also did this dawah everywhere, so it's compulsory for every Muslim. So how should we answer them, Yani?
You're referring to Tabligh Jama'ah.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
Okay. Your second question.
So my second question is regarding the zakat. Can we give zakat in this Syrian crisis, or we should still give zakat to our relatives?
Okay.
But the problem, you know, our relatives still they can manage now, like some